It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
All right, I've got too much to do tonight.
Is it
too
possible
much.
That Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including the giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists can't stop laughing. Is it possible
How cruel is that?
Walter Sterling is actually
the production
on the
finally
Red
got
Apple
changed,
Audio
and I have to
Network,
listen to this?
including
Doubt about
giant
my
affiliate
skills?
WABC. Ancient astronaut theorists say they can't stop laughing.
Oh, my God.
Is it possible?
Does he
that
say this
Walter
on the
Sterling
History Channel? Does
is
he make fun of the
actually
guy
on
with
Red
the
Apple
curly hair,
Audio
with the
Network,
sucralose guy?
including the giant affiliate WABC?
All right.
Ancient astronaut theorists.
Enough. Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight with Walter M. Sterling at 800-848-9222, live on the radio, 800-848-9222. It is shocking and disgusting to me how many so-called broadcast radio stations with official FCC licenses do not take advantage of the simple fact that anybody who's up now wants to listen to the radio. I do not have an audience. I have an audience of people who seek this for a relationship. You turn on the radio in the car at 3 in the afternoon. What's that? You turn on the radio, and then when you get to the 7-Eleven, the show is done. The beauty of being on all-night radio is you and I are together all night on the great shift, the late shift, in the firehouse, the cruiser of the police car. Thank you very much for being at the Red Apple Audio Networks with Randy West. Randy West is live on the West Coast, poetically live on the West Coast. Randy has so much information. He is a savant about television game shows. He was, in fact, an announcer on The Price is Right. He could see Bob Barker's shoes at shoe level. Were those the shiniest shoes you ever saw in your life, Randy?
We were actually on the stage together. So when he looked at me and said, "Randy, what's the name of our next player?" I was like, oh, my God, he's talking to me and about 1 million other people watching. It was crazy.
When you were an announcer on The Price is Right,
yeah,
how far ahead did you get the copy?
They were so sweet to send it to me the night before so I could look up words like Zihuatanejo, a Mexican resort, and all those other fun things that you'd be standing there going, duh, otherwise. So got it the night before, but, it really only takes 15, 20 minutes to go through a script, mark it the way Johnny Olson taught me to do it. Johnny was the great game show announcer of the 60s and 70s, and he was the original guy to announce The Price is Right, the first to say, "Come on down."
Now, what's amazing about him saying, "come on down," he made that up, didn't he?
Yeah. It was a phrase that was kicking around. What should we say? Originally, it was "stand up." Stand up, now come down. And he just did this "come on down" thing. And it became so countrified, so informal, so, it's very, very catchy. And yes, it's a national phrase now. People use it all the time.
Did you ever have a situation on The Price is Right, which at the time was recorded live to tape, wasn't it? It was live to tape. To make a big mistake on The Price is Right was a rare event. Did you ever fluff when you were reading that copy? Did you ever really fluff?
No, and I'll tell you why, because Johnny Olson showed me how to put all these markings on a page so you can read it like it was musical notes in a score. You really don't screw up. The biggest thing I did, and of course, as you said, it's live to tape. There's no going back. There's no stopping. There's no editing. There's no replacement of anything you say. And we were giving away, forks and spoons and knives, and I said stainless. It's a set of stainless. But I've never said the word stainless without stainless steel. Those two words go together in my mind. So, it's a service for 24 stainless, and I said 24 stainless steel. and just kept reading, of course. And at the end of the show, I said, I don't know if that's the right thing to say or not. And he says, well, it is now. They were not going to spend money to go back and change anything.
Randy West, expert on game shows, a bon vivant in Hollywood, the Zelig of Hollywood. It's 10 minutes past the hour. It's incredible what you know. One of the things about The Price is Right and about Bob Barker, and a common trait of every one of the game show hosts and everybody who does a daytime TV show, and you, is the ones who are successful, the ones who it just keeps going, they all came from radio. Because when you do radio, you don't have a prompter. It wouldn't occur to you. In fact, think about this. Whenever a radio guy has been on a TV show, maybe at the holidays, he talks somebody into letting him MC the local morning show, they never know where to look. Their clothes never fit. They're always too tight. And they can't read from a prompter.
Right.
Right?
You see their eyes go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. And God forbid the prompter stops. What do I do now? And people who are like actors, whom I love, of course, but they're used to a second and third take. So if something goes wrong and they just stop, which is death in broadcasting.
One of the things that I saw that proved what you just said, there was in the local Fox morning show in New York City, dual anchor morning show, reading the news, doing the news till 9 a.m. And one of them had done radio all their life. The other one had never done radio. And at 9 a.m., there was breaking news. I'll never forget this. It was textbook. There was breaking news. And at 9 a.m., there was breaking news. That meant the prompters stopped. And the woman who had done a lot of radio and a lot of live TV, she was in heaven. She couldn't wait for the prompter to stop. She just kept going and going. The guy who had never spent 1 second on the radio froze. He couldn't do it at all. And there it is. It's a particular skill. It's a particular skill. Now, Randy West is an expert on game shows. A documentary, quote, documentary came out this week about The Price is Right, and it was a lot of nasty stuff. Would you consider it a documentary or a work of fiction? And what's the name of it? Well,
it was one of 3 shows, slander, and I forget the name of it, behind the scenes silliness. It started, and I was in pre-production on this show, being done for Peacock, a 2-hour show that was going to be a documentary about singing the praises of the great Price is Right. My goodness, the longest-running television game show in history. The host of the show had been longer on one show than anyone else at the time. 19 Emmys with him and millions of viewers. People loved the show. So it started as a love note, and I've had a 40-year relationship with the show through friends Johnny Olson, Rod Roddy, a couple of the directors, Ray Angona, technical director, and some of the other producers on the show. So they called me in to give them some history and do a 2-hour interview, and then they bring it to the network, who says, you know what, we're going to change our direction on this. We want to go all slander, all, and I was like, no, you can't do that. It was originally going to include the girls, the models, but it wasn't going to be the whole show. But they did 2 hours, and I got to tell you, I saw some of what they were talking about. I've never shared it with anybody because it's none of my business. But each one of these people that participated in the show, as far as the models are concerned, were involved in lawsuits back and forth, but wrongful termination, libel and slander, inappropriate dismissal from a job, back and forth and back and forth. And there's only one model, Holly Holstrom, who did an amazing thing. She refused to sign a non-disclosure. Everyone else who got cash had to sign. They wouldn't discuss the settlement, wouldn't talk about the situation. But Holly ran through all her money, working with her attorney, and turned down a lot of cash and said, no, I want the right to talk about it. She lived in her car. She told me that she was couch surfing with friends until finally they wanted this thing settled, and they gave her, what the heck was the number? $3 million to just shut up and go away, but you can talk about it if you must. So she got $2 million, because the lawyer gets $1 million, of course. But more than the money, she's thrilled about the opportunity to tell her story. A woman scorned wants to tell what happened. What she says and all the others are true. And it's not just harassment, and it's not just Bob Barker. There was a lot of racist language and my goodness, some really obnoxious things said. And I'll give you one, for instance, because it was included in the special that aired. There was one black model, Claudia Jordan, working with two white models on the same day. And the producer, who is no longer there, long time gone, in fact, he's passed away since, he said, you stand in the middle and we'll have a reverse Oreo. That kind of comment that's so wrong. Oh, yeah. So, I saw that. When he wanted to get a model fired, he used to set the clock ahead in the green room by 5 minutes. And I said, I'll use his name, Phil. The clock was right before you put it ahead. He said, I just like to be 5 minutes early. And he would write up the model he wanted to fire as being late every day. So he would log in the time that she showed up late. So there was a lot of producers and other folks, not just Bob Barker. It wasn't just sexual harassment. It was racism and just a hostile work environment in total. And as far as Barker's concerned, it really went out of control for Bob when his wife, Dorothy Jo, died. He was kind of like untethered and, didn't know what to do until Diane Parkinson, one of the models who was involved in the most poignant comments about the things that went on backstage. She said, it's about time for a little hanky-panky in your life. And she started a relationship with Bob, and he used to say we were two middle-aged consenting adults, and she hated that phrase, middle-aged consenting adults. But that's really where it started.
I remember when that story broke about him and Diane Parkinson, and he did a very interesting thing, and he's one of the few people who could have gotten away with it. He had a press conference. He was asked those questions at a press conference, and publicly, matter-of-factly, knowing how to work a camera, looked, and he said, this was a relationship between two single consenting adults. There was nothing wrong with this. And it was very clear that whatever he did, she did too. And that was his point of view, and that was the smartest thing he could have done.
And it's absolutely true. Where it turned negative, in my belief now, I don't want to get sued, okay, is when Diane thought, since she's in relationship with the host, who was also executive producer, that she'd get some certain favors. She'd be the one to hand the microphone to him at the top of the show, which was Janice Pennington's job, because she'd been there the longest, and that she would get some kind of special treatment. And when that was not forthcoming, she, got very upset about the whole thing. And what happened to the rest of the staff is when the lawsuit started, and Diane, I think, filed the first one, everyone was going to be taking a deposition under oath. And then it became a question of who's going to lie for who and who's going to say what for who. And that's when it really all fell apart. Who's on whose side? Once you got to split down the middle at the workplace, it never ends well.
The legendary Randy West, you just said something fascinating about the priorities and what connotes success on television game shows. You said she'd get favored treatment. For example, she would hand Bob the microphone at the beginning of the show. Like that was the top of the totem pole for models. Is that what you just said?
That's exactly what I just said. And it's that silly and that petty. Absolutely.
And one of the things that always strikes me about any of these lawsuits, any of these jerks at work, these are the cushiest jobs in the world. The jobs these people had at every level on that show or any television show compared to, say, loading at the FedEx loading dock or working at United Parcel or sitting right now in a police patrol car in Detroit. Any one of those jobs I view as somewhat tougher than working in any job at The Price is Right. At some point, you must stop being a jerk and just say, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. I will behave till 5 o'clock, no problem. Am I crazy here?
No, you're absolutely right. And the first thing said to me on the set by a longtime staffer there, because she knew me from having visited the show, and she said, now that you're working here, I've got one thing to say to you, and that is that Bob Barker has been in this artificial terrarium so long that he thinks it's real. So that's verbatim. And what it says is what you're talking about here is we're in this crazy environment. We start to think it's more important and more difficult than it is. I mean, you need to be paying attention 24/7. You need to be tippy-top, ready to rock and roll no matter what happens, ready with whatever. But that's any broadcaster. So it does require a lot of focus, but it's not loading a truck, as you say. And we are well paid for being able to be reliable.
We're well paid for not loading a truck. This is Randy West. Randy, what is the name of your fascinating book? I just love your book. This is the book I had been waiting for all my life. It is loaded with the best gossip about shows we actually watch. What's the name of Randy West's book?
TV, Inside Out, Flukes, Flakes, Feuds, Felonies. And that's it. Flukes and flakes and feuds and felonies, all the backstage gossip and crazy stories that you ever wanted to hear about the shows and the stars that you've known your whole life. I've been in the business long enough and heard enough stories, and frankly, I'll tell anybody anything at this point because I find it all fascinating. Fascinating how people can work on a show together and not get along for decades at a time.
Listen, if you're going to tell anybody anything, you're going to tell it here. We're going to bother you a lot on the Red Apple Audio Network. Thank you, Randy West.
My pleasure.
Apple, you bet. Randy, Red Apple Audio Network. See, I'm trying to sound slick, and look what happens. Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
The hidden layer of our existence revealed. Walter Sterling from the Red Apple Audio Network.
All right, now here is the star of Cats and Cosby. And if Rita was on the phone, I would say, here's the star of Cats and Cosby, John Catsimatidis. Thank you so much for being on Another Side of Midnight. John had a unique experience. He was in a huge Hollywood movie with Timothy Chardonnay, as I call him. Timothy Chardonnay. It was up for an Oscar, didn't win an Oscar. I was watching the Academy Awards. Maybe you did. I watched it for about 2 minutes, and I was so appalled by what Conan O'Brien had to say, I just really had a tough time looking at it anymore. But you, sir, is now an insider and a key player in feature film. John Catsimatidis, what was your reaction to the Academy Awards?
Well, I was very, very disappointed. I mean, Timothy Chalamet and Marty Supreme was nominated for 9 awards. Now, I mean, we didn't think we'd win 9 awards, but, when you're nominated for 9 awards, then you figure, well, maybe you won 2, 3. And when you win 0 out of 9, that is an oxymoron. I mean, it was a very decent movie. A lot of people liked the movie. A lot of people saw the movie. I don't know what the final raise was, but there were way over 100 million. And it was a fun movie to do. It was a fun movie to see. It made you laugh. It made you cry. We laughed. We cried. I mean, it was really a good movie. Timothy Chalamet, he was pretty good. The women always loved him, and there was a few scenes in there that when I interviewed Kevin O'Leary, and I think I told you about it once, it was a fun movie to see. How were you shocked, Walter?
I couldn't believe you didn't win anything. If worst case, you should have won set design for making the 1952 New York City come back to life. It was astonishing how much it looked like the Lower East Side. It was great. The costumes, all of that stuff was flawless. And then, yes, Timothy did a great job. And I have a question for you about Kevin O'Leary. Did you get to spend any time with him? Did you talk to him?
Not during the movie. We knew each other because we've gotten together before. And he's a Canadian a Canadian that wanted to become more famous in New York. I mean, he made a deal with Fox, and he's on Fox all the time for one reason or another. and he had one scene, but we didn't talk about it until after the movie was made. And Timothy Chalamet and Kevin O'Leary played the character of a boss of a company. I guess a worldwide company that made pens or something like that.
Right. And ink. And I mean, I guess they used ink. You know, everybody used ink in 1952. And Timothy Chalamet snuck into a big party he was having. And you could see he's the type of boss that you don't want to work for. Mm-hmm. He had that sloppy, sarcastic-looking face that you knew you didn't want to work for him, and he really it's the kind of boss that you don't want to work for. And he was sitting around. It was a black tie party from the 1950s with other bosses that you didn't want to work for either, and they were just laughing about things. They were laughing at everybody, laughing at the world. And Timothy Chalamet steps up to him and says, Kevin says, "How did you get into this party?" Well. I saw an open window and I came in, or I saw an open door and I came in. And he said, and he has a sneer on his face. And he says, I have to go to Japan. I got to go to Japan. Japan's waiting for me. I'm going to win the big award, the big ping pong championship of the world. You have to send me to Japan. And he says, "You really want to go to Japan?" He says, Yes. Go into my office down the hallway over there, and there's a paddle on my desk. So Timothy Chalamet goes down to the office, and he comes back, and he says, "Here's your paddle, Mr. Sir." And he says, "You really want to go to Japan?" He says, Yes, I'll do anything. And you see that smile on his face, that real, the kind of boss that you don't never want to work for. And he gets that, and he says, "You really want to go?" He says, Yes. He says, "Well, drop your drawers, drop your pants, and bend over." "You want me to drop my pants, Ben?" "Drop your pants and bend over. You really want to go?" So Timothy Chalamet drops his pants, bends over, and the whole world is seeing his rear end. And he said, so I laughed when I was interviewing Kevin O'Leary. I said, "Well, I guess he was a double." He says, "We started with a double, but we were doing so many takes. By midnight, Timothy Chalamet says, I want to do it myself." So I said, that was really Timothy Chalamet's butt. So when 1 million women listened to my show, heard that was really Timothy Chalamet's butt. And in the movie, an extra 1 million women went to see the movie. Because of you, yes.
Yep, because that was really Timothy Chalamet's butt.
You and I are talking. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It'll be in history.
It'll be in history. This is Mr. John Catsimatidis, Katz and Cosby host and the Katz Roundtable host and the owner of the Red Apple Audio Networks and the owner of WABC. I was fascinated by the fact that changing subjects, sir, I'm fascinated by the fact that, especially now, you own an oil refinery. And I want to ask you what about running an oil refinery that when you got involved and you started to run it has been a big surprise to you. But first, I want to ask the price of gas. What % of the price of gas that I pay at the gas tank per gallon what percent of that is local and state taxes? How taxed is that gallon of gas? Because I believe that if any governor's really concerned about the price of gas today, they have a lot of power to lower it.
Well, absolutely correct. I mean, a barrel of oil is 42. When you hear it's $100 a barrel, a barrel of oil is 42 and a half gallons. So when you divide $100 by 42 and a half, whatever it comes out to, $2.20 or something like that. And then as a processing cost, it costs money to process and I forget the exact number. I thought it was maybe $2.50, $3 a barrel. So, and then when you process the barrel of oil, you get, if it's 42 and a half gallons, after you process it, it's some products are lighter crude and some are heavier. In other words, you can get 45 gallons out of a barrel of oil after it's processed because you break down the molecules and allow it to expand. In other words, jet fuel or depending on what items you want to get back, diesel fuel, jet fuel, regular gasoline, high octane gasoline. There's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different products you can get out of it. So let's say you end up with 45 gallons and you start off with $100 and et cetera. And then there's transportation costs to get it to the people that need it, to the gas stations, et cetera, et cetera. And the rest is, I guess, taxes and whatever profit the gas stations make.
So the taxes.
Did I say it cheap enough, well enough for everybody to understand it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, sir. When you started, now here you are, a brilliant grocer, a brilliant food retailer, started in the business in produce, worked your way up, wound up owning the company, and now you own an oil refinery. Day one, first week, there must have been a couple things about owning a oil refinery that surprised you, that made you go, whoa, I had no idea. Could you tell me one or two of those things?
Well, another funny thing is, I bought the company while it was in bankruptcy.
Right.
I was directed to it, and I was in bankruptcy court. At that time, we were in the real estate business, and we were in this food business, and we were in the airplane business. We owned an airline called Capital Airlines. It was the 11th largest carrier in the country, and we owned a corporate jet company, because I started the company that eventually became NetJets.
Oh, wow.
And so Capital Airlines, it was about 1983. We knew when People's Express entered the market that the airline business is going to be a challenge. And what happened? People's Express was one of the biggest frauds in Wall Street ever. We didn't know about it at the time, but they were selling tickets to go from New York to Los Angeles for $99.
Right.
Now, even the fuel, to put the fuel in the airplane costs more than $99.
Right.
And a ticket to go to Puerto Rico for $49 and $39. But you know how consumers are. Oh, my God, I can go to Los Angeles for $99. I can go to Puerto Rico for $49. I said to my partner at that time, it was a public company, I said to him, His name was Farhad. Farhad, he was Iranian, a good guy. I said, I think we have to sell this company. There's no way you can sell seats for $99 and stay in business. So we sold it to somebody. And the guy, we sold it to the senator, the Senate Majority Leader of Puerto Rico. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. And he was financed by Drexel Burnham of Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And I said, but we kept the airplanes as collateral. So I said, okay, let's sell it to him. Okay. And off we go to the races. And the reason he wanted to buy it is he owned a bunch of hotels. The old Americana Hotel in Puerto Rico, if you remember that name. Mm-hmm. And that was a famous, 40 years ago, that was a famous hotel in Puerto Rico, the old San Juan. And he was going to use the airplanes mostly to fill up his hotels. I said, okay, that is the bill of sale he sold to the investment bankers, Drexel Burnham. And so we wait 6 months. He starts operation. And before you know it, machine kaput. Remember those words? Yeah. Machine kaput. And he's in bankruptcy already. So we go to bankruptcy court and said, the trustee, Joe Reese, a French guy, he says, well, we're here to get our airplanes back. And he says, would you like to buy an oil refinery? And then he says, a oil refinery. He says, it has 400 convenience stores. I said, 400 convenience stores? You remember, I was in the supermarket business.
Right.
So I heard 400 convenience stores. My eyes lit up.
Yes.
My eyes lit up. So I jumped into looking at it, and I said, 400 convenience stores. I didn't even know what the oil refinery was doing. And I go there and I said, okay, I'll buy it. But don't forget, we had money because we made money because we're in the real estate business. I was buying real estate in 1977 when the world was coming to an end. We had what a mess we had in 1977 in New York City. I was buying real estate because I was so stupid I didn't know any better.
Right.
So I bought real estate for $5 million, $10 million, a bunch of real estate in New York. And when I woke up in 1980, it was worth $100 million. I said, "Holy crap!" And so I said, "All right, we'll go to bankruptcy court." So we went to bankruptcy court, and we got the stock of the thing. All of a sudden I woke up and we bought it. We bought the company for $7.5 million or $7 million, and we got to go meet the creditors now. The bankers.
Wait. You bought an oil refinery for $7.5 million plus how many convenience stores? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. I became the CEO, but don't forget, they owed $100 million. $100 million was a lot of money in 1983.
And you had to assume that debt?
Well, at that point, I had to go see the bankers in bankruptcy court.
Right.
So I sit down in New York City, and there's one of these law firms downtown with a conference room table 100 feet long. And there was maybe 50 lawyers in there, and plus their clients, plus the bankers. I'm 100 feet long. Could you imagine 50 lawyers, how much the billing rate was in that day? How much money they're charging just for being at the meeting?
Right.
And the head of the lawyers, I forget what his name is, I think Jeff Chase, and he worked for Chase Manhattan Bank. But he was no relation or something. Jeff, I think... And he says, Mr. Catsimatidis, what the heck do you know about running an oil company? I said something stupid. I regret. You know how certain people say stupid things once in a while?
Yeah.
Well, it was my turn to say something stupid. I said, well, he said, you're in the food business. I said, olive oil, Western oil, Mazola oil. I said, it's all oil.
That's great. That's
great.
And what did they do? What were their faces like? What were their faces like?
They were really pissed off. Okay, the meeting ended, and then I have to go back every 30 days or every 60 days, 30 days, and report back to financial statements because I became chairman and CEO. And I go back 30 days later, same room, 100-foot conference table, 50 lawyers billing whatever they're billing. I mean, if the lawyers are billing $500 an hour, which is a lot of money in 1984, 83, 84, that's almost 45 years ago. So the billing rate is like $30,000 an hour, $50,000 an hour. So I sit down and I say, Mr. Catsimatidis, you're here, you're supposed to present your financial statement. I said, okay, I'm prepared. And, you know, I had taken over the company and we were fixing things up and making some efficiencies. And I had the confidence of the people that were running the company. I think we had like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 employees and their jobs were at stake. And I sat there at the end of the table and he said, Mr. Cassidy, where's your financial statement? And we distributed the financial statement. And I had started to straighten the place out. And he says, how much money did you make last month? I said, well, we distributed, you have the financial statement in front of you. For the last 30 days, for last month, we made $7.5 million in 1 month.
What did they say?
They turned colors.
I bet.
And it was no longer, do we want you to be chairman and CEO? How are you going to pay us back your $100 million? And then we owed them another $29 million in interest. Because, you know, a company in bankruptcy accumulates the interest. It is not paying anything. And I said, I'm going to pay you back. Usually in bankruptcy court, you pay back 30 cents on a dollar.
Right.
40 cents on a dollar, whatever. And you make a deal. I said, I'm going to pay you. See, this is how stupid I was. I'll pay you back 100 cents a dollar, plus I'll pay you all the interest we owe you.
Oh.
They turn colors again. How stupid can this kid be? But we'll take it.
Yeah, they weren't going to argue with you about that.
We'll take it.
No, they weren't going to argue.
So it's no longer should Catsimatidis run the company. Of course we want you to run the company. Pay us. And we made a deal that we're going to pay him back the $100 million over 10 years, $10 million a year. And the company was making money. So we were sitting on $30-40 million in cash. And this is the company I bought for only $7.5 million.
That was the best move ever. This is John Catsimatidis, the host of Katz and Cosby and the Katz Roundtable and the owner of the Red Apple Audio Networks and the owner of WABC. And I want to tell you...
That was a better deal when I bought WABC. I'll tell you that story someday.
Yes, I want to hear that story someday because I know what a good deal it is, and it was brilliant. When you did it, I can't tell you how many people in the radio industry hit their foreheads when he got it for that. Oh my gosh. But I want to share something with you because I'm a new guy here, and I learned something very important about you as a boss. I learned something very important about you as a manager, and you should own this one. This is important. Every single person who has welcomed me to your company, welcomed me to the Red Apple Audio Networks, every single person on this staff has said the same thing. that I've never heard at a company before. Every one of them says, welcome to the family. Now, that's you. You go to Cumulus or iHeart, they don't say welcome to the family. They say, well, good luck. but here they all say welcome to the family, and that's because of you and Margot, and you should be proud of that.
Well, we work together, all of us, and when the morning host Sid Rosenberg was off on Friday, he's going to be off again on Monday. I guess he. By the way, the schools are closed because of a Muslim holiday on Friday.
Yeah.
Friday was the Muslim holiday.
Right.
And, I didn't even know the school. I didn't know until I learned about it. All the public schools were closed in New York and New Jersey. And that's where our headquarters is. And that's why Sid Rosenberg, our star, morning star, wanted to take his young kids away or whatever. And, I always took my kids away when the schools were off. Who jumps in? It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I was in the studio by 5:30 in the morning, and I did the morning show for 4 hours between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., and I'm going to do it again Monday because I work with everybody. I don't ask anybody to do something that I would not do myself. And I guess that's part of the success, and I write it in my book.
Yeah.
And
the book, How Far Do You Want to Go? How far do you want to go? This is the best business book a person could ever have, and not a bad life book. John Catsimatidis, I have to open your ATM now and take care of you. So we're going to do a hard break. I appreciate the amount of time that you've given this show this morning. Thank you for the job, Mr. Catsimatidis. I appreciate it.
And I woke up for you.
You woke up for me, and I'm sure I'm going to hear about it for a long time.
No, it's okay. I enjoy doing things, and I enjoy talking to you, and thank you for the job you've done and entertain people, because the other side of midnight, the purpose is to learn and entertain, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, sir. John Catsimatidis, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling.
The hidden layer of our existence revealed. Walter Sterling from the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's difficult to imagine how many conspiracies you and I walk through each day. It's very easy to talk about the pyramids, and we do. It's easy to talk about the UFOs, and we do. It was amazingly easy to talk about the Major General who disappeared out west, left his home 11 a.m. one morning 2 weeks ago. A Major General. That's a real guy, right? It's not like you and me. It's a real guy. He left without his watch or his cell phone. Did you ever leave without your cell phone, without running back going, oh my God, where's my phone? I forgot my phone. He did. But he remembered his service revolver. He took that. Then it turns out 2 weeks earlier, a colleague of his who works in a lab, both working on rocket fuel, they disappeared. Him and a colleague disappeared. We broke that story with Ross Coulthart from News Nation, and coming up later tonight, you and I will hear Ross Coulthart's update on the status of the Major General who disappeared. But there are other conspiracies that, to me, are equally shocking because they're home. They're at home. There is a myth that your water meter listens to you. Remember a couple years ago, you had a quasi-mechanical, electromechanical water meter, big bulky thing on the side of the house, metal. And then one day the guys came You know who the guys are. The guys came. These are the interesting guys because you didn't ask for the guys. Sorry. You didn't ask for the guys. You didn't ask them to come to your house. They arrived at your house, took out the big mechanical water meter that's 100 years old, took it away and put in a little gray box, a gray plastic box, about 5 by 5, stuck it on the side of your house. Did you ask for a new water meter? No. This is a smart water meter. What do you mean a smart water meter? The old water meter did just fine. No, this is a smart water meter. Well, how smart is it? It's so smart that it listens to the inside of your house. Oh, that's just a myth. People say it's true. It listens to the inside of your house. And you know, there's a computer in your car. You have a car bought in the last 5 years, 8 years. There's a computer inside that car. Yeah, it's useful if there's an accident. It indicates, it's like an airplane. It shows what happened in the accident. Did I brake? How fast was I going when the car hit? Yeah, how fast I was going with the car hit and the shape of the engine. Oh, my friend, that is the beginning of what that computer has in it. That computer has far more in it in your car than just how fast does it go. How fast did it go? That's easy. They knew how fast it went in 1959 when your speedometer got stuck after the wreck. Then they could see right away. This measures how many people were in the car. It knows how many people were in the car. And based on the history of the car, it speculates the weight and height of the driver. If your daughter says, no, I wasn't driving, well, that computer will clear that up. If she was driving, the computer will clear that up. It'll indicate the condition of the brakes right before the accident. It'll condition the status of the fluids in the car. It lets people know the fluids of the car. Every critical point, every point of critical failure in that automobile is recorded in a computer in your car. Question, did you ask for that computer to be installed? Is that something you asked for in the options list when you wanted a V8 rather than a crappy V4? What the hell is that? Who decided we needed 4-cylinder engines? We're Americans. We're Americans. We're not little Italians and little, we're not. No, we're Americans. We need V8s. Stop with the nonsense. We have no interest in saving fuel. We want a big car that makes a lot of noise. I'm an American. That's what I want. I want a V8 and not one of those. I want one in my car. All of the options that you asked for on that list of options, super AC, every seat moving, power this, power that, did you ask for a computer? Did you get the specs on the computer that's built into your car that holds you liable when it's time for an accident to be reviewed by your insurance company? Did you know the capabilities of that computer? No. Why didn't they have to disclose that to us? Because not only that, it sends back information to the manufacturer. Do you want the manufacturer to know all the stuff about you? Wait, it gets better. When you and I rent a car, the tracking on it is not how many miles did you go? Oh, yeah, that's nice. But that was from 1980. They learned how many miles you actually go. When you say, when you rent a car and they say to you, well, will you be driving this to another state? And you lie. You say no. Meanwhile, you're going to Pennsylvania. Nobody goes to Pennsylvania voluntarily. Trust me on this. Do you? How many miles do you plan to drive a day? Do you plan to go to another state? And you say, I don't know, 50 miles. And no, I'm not taking it to another state. They know. The minute you drive it to another state, the minute you drive it more miles than you said, they know. They know before you bring it back, but it gets better. Now, at companies like Hertz, right before you take it out, right before you rent it, they take a 360 photograph of that car. They have a detailed photograph of that car, every inch of it, to determine whether or not you have injured their car. You and I will talk about all of this in just seconds at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling.
This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Walter Sterling makes your evening strange. Red Apple Audio Network.
Another Side of Midnight with Walter M. Sterling at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. This is the biggest all-night show in American radio. Coast to coast, WGN in Chicago, KMOX in St. Louis. Hello, Steve Moore. Hello, it's me. KDKA, welcome. WABC in New York, and the legendary Dave Scott. It is very important to have Dave Scott on this show tonight because there's so much breaking news about UFOs, extraterrestrials, the secret space program, the secret of Mars space program, and the bizarre phenomena that you, Dave Scott, host of SpacedOutRadio.com and Spaced Out Radio Coast to Coast in Canada, a known Canadian with a Canadian passport. Dave Scott, you told me something that was stunning, and I've been haunted by it ever since you told me it months ago. Dave Scott pointed out that the United States of America has had a vehicle roaming around Mars for over 20 years. There's been something we've put up there that's driving around, crawling around Mars for over 20 years. We are the extraterrestrials on Mars. But what really struck me is, wait a minute, what, 20 years? And yes, we put up our first Voyager, our first rover, whatever you're going to call it, 20 years ago. And if they were just driving over rocks for $1 billion a year, if they were just driving over rocks, if NASA was like, yeah, let's send up a probe and have it drive over rocks and send back an occasional picture and then mix some of the dirt with water, and then, yeah, let's spend another $1 billion to do that, we wouldn't be doing it. There's another reason that we've been up there 20 years, Dave Scott. What do you think that reason is?
Well, I think that, we're looking for a place to expand. Mars doesn't have a Taco Bell or a McDonald's yet, or a 7-Eleven. So I think it would be very important for us to get the fast food restaurants up there, maybe a NASCAR track, and, definitely a military base, so that way, in case any aliens pop out, that we can protect the planet. No, a lot of people believe that Mars has actually been colonized by humans for a long time. I mean, there is this secret space program that is out there, allegedly, where these super soldiers allege that they do these. It's really hard to explain, but I'm going to do my best here for you and the audience, Walter.
Go ahead, Dave Scott. Go ahead.
It's called the 20 and Back program. So allegedly, these people have been recruited at a young age. They go to Mars for 20 years. They fight aliens. They help expand and colonize Mars. And then when they come back, they are regressed to when they just left. So to them, it's only been a few minutes long. Now, a lot of these people who have done this 20 and Back program, a lot of them have become frauds, so to speak. Okay, go figure. I'm in my field. Frauds in my field. Yeah. But a lot of them, they believe that there are these super soldier programs that are out there that actually have the ability to do the 20 and Back. Now, these people, some of them have died but have been resurrected. Some of them have lost body parts that have been sewn on.
And the funny part about it is, Walter, my good friend, because I'm in San Francisco right now for UFOCon 2026, and the lady who organizes it, Lorian Fenton, she is actually sitting right in front of me, and she actually has worked with a lot of these 20 and back super soldiers in helping them regress to figure out what they actually have seen while doing this 20 and back program.
How many people who have been sent up there, we're just talking speculation here, Dave Scott, how many people have been sent to Mars on this 20 program and died? How many do you think have died?
Well, there was this one super soldier who claims to be one. His name is Randy Kramer. He claims that he actually died while on Mars, but he was still brought back to life up there and then was brought back. Apparently, allegedly, he had an arm ripped off, and he was in pretty bad shape, but he still was able to come back and have his body intact, his mind intact. When they get back, their minds are erased. And it's only through screenshot memories that they start having these flashbacks, much like a soldier coming back from Afghanistan who has like PTSD. And I don't mean that as an insult to soldiers anywhere. God bless our troops. But it's like they have these regression PTSD flashbacks. And that's how people like Lorian and others who've worked with these super soldiers are able to kind of regress them to figure out what actually happened to them.
Dave Scott, you and I are talking to Dave Scott about the secret Mars space program. Here's your phone number. Dave has a limited time, but wants to talk with you and has information about the secret space program and other updates. He's at a big deal UFO conference in San Francisco live right now. The latest information on this topic is available through Dave Scott. Here's your phone number, 800-848-9222. That's the live line to talk to Dave Scott, who's at the UFO conference. What's the name of the conference, Dave?
The conference is called UFOCon. It's the 15th anniversary, and one of the great ladies who helped build my popularity in the field is Lorian Fenton. She puts it out. She hates it when I compliment her, and she's shaking her fist at me right now as we speak. 800-848-9222, the latest from UFOCon. Now, will Lori go on the air with me right now? I believe Lorian would go on the air with you to talk super soldiers. She knows this subject way bigger than I do.
All right, Lorian, thank you so much for being on Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Networks with Walter Sterling. Clearly, you're a friend of Dave Scott. Is this a source of embarrassment for you in any way?
Are we talking? Hi there, my name's Lorian. How are you?
Yes, you're on the air. And are you embarrassed to know Dave in any way?
Oh, yes, I'm totally embarrassed to know Dave Scott. That is it's like I regret every day that I met him. No, I'm joking. Dave Scott is one of my best friends, and I love him dearly. And he's really brought a great broad spectrum with the Spaced Out Radio to his listening audience about all the things that are involved with ufology, cryptids, and everything around the subject, the paranormal, the phenomenon, what's going on at DC with disclosure,
all right.
You name it.
Listen, Lorian, we're not here to promote Dave. We're here to get information. No, we're here to get information from you from your conference. Now, today at this conference in San Francisco, what is the buzz? What are the conference attendees? What do they seem to be talking about most in the lounges, at the bars? What is the news that is top of mind?
Well, I think the most important thing that happened today is that we put on a whistleblower for the first time that is not coming out to the public yet. And his story is pretty extraordinary. He's not military, so he's not protected under the Whistleblower Act. But his company developed a device that can detect UFOs coming in and out of our atmosphere. And the government already has that device. And they were pretty upset when he developed it, too. And he went to them and said, I want you to buy it from me. And they said, oh, you're a security threat. And they started harassing him. And people were fascinated by his story because it had never been out there before. And
it had been. Listen, excuse me. With respect.
Oh, okay.
It had been out there on this show. I had him on this show. And
that's wonderful.
It was okay. There was there was a lot of Swiss cheese in that story. So may I suggest that we go to the next topic that's being discussed at the convention? Could we do that? What else are they talking about?
Well, I had 21 speakers, so it's pretty hard to pin down which one was the best.
Of course.
But I will say this, besides, my people were fascinated by Whistleblower Mike's story. They were fascinated by it because they never heard it. So they were just like, oh, okay, this is amazing. And yes, there were a lot of holes in it, and we really went around the rose bush discussing a lot of the pieces that were missing. And there were some good comments around the whole subject, but, to get away from that for now, I think the other person that was the biggest highlight of the weekend was Jesse Beltran. He is a gentleman that scans people for foreign objects in their body, whether they be, what people would consider alien implants or military implants or, whatever that might be causing trauma or problems with the person, and they may be what is considered a targeted individual because of these implants, or they may be feeling they're an alien contactee because of the implants. I mean, there's many ways to go with this, but he explained it on a scientific basis, and people were coming out of the room going, oh my God, this is so fascinating. And they were really buzzing around him. Well, that is fascinating because there are hard goods involved. There are implants in their bodies. There are pieces of metal in people's bodies that make no sense. And absolutely.
And here's an amazing fact. One of those persons with a piece of metal in their body that made no sense was a man who was sent by Bell Labs to go to Roswell, New Mexico for one job, which was to buy up all the land that he could, which was to be owned by Bell Labs and is still owned by Bell Labs, a man who had top security clearance and says he didn't need it. And then a couple years later, this piece of metal kept coming up through his skin, and ultimately a doctor took it out, and that was my dad.
That is amazing.
So I believe that. I believe that.
So you know about this firsthand. You lived it.
I lived it, and I believe it, and I believe it's our best evidence that there are aliens involved with our culture, that they have abducted human beings. They have conducted experiments. Absolutely believe it. You're giving us great information. Share with us anything else that's top of mind at your convention.
And, just to make it, kind of wrap it with a bow, everybody that comes to my conference is a contactee, pretty much. I mean, we've done hands up in the air, and 85% of the people in the room are contactees. And that's what sets me apart from all the big conferences, because at the big conferences, you get a lot of people that are still trying to decide if it's real or not. And you get people on stage that have never even seen a UFO, and I bang my head against the wall, going, "How are these people speaking at a UFO conference and have never even seen a UFO?" Right? But so that's what makes me a little unique here. Is that we're in our 15th year of really catering to people that know the truth. And I think that's very important. And I'm giving a presentation tomorrow called "Disclosure Has Already Happened, but Nobody Paid Any Attention." Because basically every contactee in the United States is a disclosure person. They know it's real. They know it's already happened, and they would not freak out if the government just, tomorrow said, "By the way, we have aliens here."
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's my name, LorienFenton.com, and it's spelled LORIEN Fenton.com.
What do you think the President of the United States will be disclosing, if anything?
I think he's going to disclose the fact that we do have extraterrestrial life among us, that they're more than likely interdimensional, and that the UFOs that have been traveling in and out of our atmosphere are real. And what else I think he might be disclosing is the fact that the UAP situation is actually our man-made stuff. And I think that's really important for people to understand as well. I
appreciate the time you've spent with us tonight. I'm going to call you again next week you, because I'm tired of hearing from Dave. And I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to give us a summation of everything that happened at your UFO conference today in San Francisco. Very generous with your time.
I'd be happy to do that. I'll bring out the program, and I'll go over it with you next week, okay?
That would be fantastic. That would just be
Thanks,
great.
dear.
Live from UFO Con, thank you so much. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
That Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Yeah, it is.
Including the giant affiliate WABC.
Yeah, it's me.
Ancient astronaut theorists can't stop laughing.
What?
Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists say they can't stop laughing.
Do the other hosts have to put up with these insults? Does Greg Stewart have to put up with any insults? Greg Kelly? Does he have to put up with any insults like that? I don't think so. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Coming up tonight in just seconds, Ross Coulthart, News Nation, is going to reveal the latest on the Major General who had every UFO secret in his head and 2 weeks ago disappeared. A story that was broken by Ross Coulthart. Ross Coulthart, top journalist, the information that we actually care about. Plus, did you ever have your bank account canceled for no reason, no notice? Maybe you were pumping gas and all of a sudden that card didn't work and you thought you didn't have any money, but you had a lot of money, and the crooks who run our banking system unbanked you and did it again. You and I will talk about that coming up in just seconds. But first, let's talk to Ben. Ben at 800-848-9222. Hi, Ben. Ken, sorry. Rhymes with Ben, but I don't have my glasses on, Ken, and I always am punished for doing that.
Can I ask my question?
That's what I look forward to, Ken.
Okay. On the implants, you said something about, was it your father that had an implant?
My father worked at Bell Labs. He went to Roswell a number of times. He went there for Bell Labs. A couple years after he left Bell Labs, he kept poking at his upper arm. And he said, what the hell is this? Now, he didn't have shrapnel from the Army. He wasn't in the military. What was this? And sure enough, there was a chip in his arm. And it came out, help of a doctor, no pain, nothing big, but it didn't belong there, Ken.
Mm-hmm. My question is, the implant itself, was it examined to see what kind of metal it was, and did it have any kind of origin other than the Earth?
Don't know. It's not the sort of thing I asked at the time. I wish I had. But it happened a little before people were suspect of those things. They may have just assumed he was working on the car once and it went in. It's a fair question, Ken, and I appreciate the call at 800. Thank you. At 800-848-9222. Here's Ross Coulthart giving us an update on the Major General. Ross, good evening. It's Ross Coulthart, world-class journalist for News Nation, a serious organization. But then there's us, Ross, you and me. And he has the updates on all things UFOs and conspiracies. I love the conspiracies, Ross. Good evening. What do you have for us tonight?
G'day, Walter. Well, you and I have been discussing this missing general, Neil McCaslin, for much of the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And the new news is no news. It's now 3 weeks and the general is still missing. But his disappearance is now being seen in a very interesting context because There is now more evidence of other disappearances. There's a young woman who was working very closely with McCasland who disappeared a year ago in June 2025, a woman called Monica Jacinta Reza, and she disappeared in the Angeles forest northwest of Los Angeles. And the interesting thing is, northeast of Los Angeles, and what she's basically been involved in is the development of all manner of alloys and rocket engines, and it sparked a lot of speculation. We discussed this a little bit last time we spoke, and what's just happened in the last few days is the government, the President's Executive Office, have registered the domains alien.gov and aliens.gov. And it's beginning to fuel speculation that there might be something to the announcement by President Trump in February that he's going to declassify any evidence relating to UAPs, UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrial life, recovered technology. And it's fueled speculation that McCasland's disappearance might be linked to this announcement. Now, a lot of people, as soon as the story came out that the government had quietly registered these official .gov domains, alien.gov and aliens.gov, don't bother going to the sites yet because even though they're registered, they're no longer active websites. They haven't had content placed on them yet. What's interesting, though, is that a press secretary for the president, when she was asked by Defense Scoop, which is an online webzine, what this is all about, she sent back a message saying, "Stay tuned." And then she put, Walter, an alien emoji, an emoji of an alien face. And that has now fueled, I think, speculation, even amongst sober commentators in the legacy dullard media that has its head firmly in the sand, that President Trump might be looking for the ultimate distraction as things go very bad in the Middle East. Maybe, just maybe, the registration by his staff of alien.gov and aliens.gov is a move by the president to make an announcement about the existence of extraterrestrial life. And I don't think anymore it's an idle speculation. There is some serious basis now for suggesting that the president might indeed be contemplating making an announcement.
Why now? Why would he do it now? Besides the some of the obvious concerns, but why would he do it now?
I think the largest explanation is one that keeps on coming up perennially in UAP research. There's been a lot of commentators, people from the inside, Lou Elizondo among them, the former head of the Pentagon's UFO investigations. And he keeps on hinting darkly at things that he can't disclose, which he says are going to happen in or after 2027, or possibly even later this year. And there's been any amount of speculation about what this might mean, but I'm told it may very well be that the government realises the game is up, that after 80 years of cover-ups over the existence of a non-human intelligence, alien life engaging with this planet, they've realised they have to tell the truth, that it's time to come clean with the American public, because maybe, just maybe, as incredible as this may sound, the non-human intelligences are forcing their hand. Maybe in 2027 or earlier, there's going to be some kind of a show. And it's really interesting because there's any amount of weird data points on this. There's a guy in South Carolina called Chris Bledsoe, who's long been a darling of people from NASA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the CIA, who have attested to his psychical abilities, a guy called Chris Bledsoe.
Right.
Chris has been predicting for years now that there's going to be some kind of event that takes place. He first said it was going to happen in Easter of this year, 2026. Now he's moderated what he's saying to August of 2026. But there's some suggestion that there might be a public display by non-human intelligences. And interestingly enough, one of the things that he predicted, Walter, was that there was going to be a lot of weird, anomalous activity over different countries. Sort of, I think he described comets and things doing weird loop-de-loops in the sky.
Right.
And it's happening. I mean, believe it or not, all over the world, including here in Australia where I live, but also across the United States, there have been weird, anomalous things that looked like comets, but as people described in Texas when they saw it, this comet did a loop-de-loop, and it was filmed on video and posted on local TV. And so there is the beginning of speculation that there might be something to these stories. And maybe the government, the Pentagon, and the intelligence community know the game is up.
2 mornings ago, I was at my in-laws in Ohio, and the loudest sound I could ever imagine greeted us at 8 in the morning, and a flash in the sky, and I thought it was the sound of a giant dresser in the attic falling over. It was that loud, and the house shook. And then, sure enough, a few hours later, it was revealed it was a comet. The comet shook all of northeastern Ohio and landed in Lake Erie. That's where it landed. It was bright, it was loud, and I had never witnessed or been anywhere near a comet coming down before. It was remarkable. The other thing that was remarkable to me about it, Ross Coulthart, is I thought we have anti-aircraft, anti-ballistic missile, a shield around the United States of America. How did that thing get through? It was allegedly like 7 miles long, something like that.
It was, I know the piece you're talking about. It was a 17,000-pound piece of debris that broke apart above Lake Erie. And there were about 140 people who reported it. And it happened at about 9 o'clock in the morning, caused numerous houses and windows to shake. But It was 7 tons, 6 foot in diameter. And yes, you may ask that question. We don't actually have the kind of anti-ballistic missile technology that a lot of people have been led to believe. And the thing about these meteors, a 7-ton, 6-foot diameter meteor, I have to say, is pretty commonplace these days. Mm-hmm. These happen relatively often. And what's interesting, though, is that these have been predicted. Chris Bledsoe has predicted this meteor activity, and other people are saying that we're going to see an increase in anomalous activity. And it's interesting because one of the things that's starting to happen again, Walter, believe it or not, is the drones are back. The mysterious objects that the government explained away over New Jersey and much of the East Coast for much of 2024 into 2025 and this year, they've suddenly started showing themselves again over parts of New Jersey, New York, Florida. And I'm getting a lot of videos from people who are describing to me this anomalous phenomena. And I don't know what to make of it. I mean, ultimately, all I'm doing is speculating. But I'll leave you with what Chris Bledsoe predicted. He says he was told by the White Lady, a woman who appeared to him as a transparent white shape of a lady, when the red star and Regulus are on the horizon in front of the gaze of the Sphinx before daylight, a new knowledge will come to humanity. Now, everyone's been focused on Easter this year as the date, but there's some suggestion that it might actually be as early as today, the spring equinox. And the astronomy is interesting. The Sphinx faces due east precisely where the sun rises on the equinox. And on March the 20th, 2026, at dawn, Regulus rises in the eastward gaze of the Sphinx just before sunrise. Regulus is a star. It's a blue-white star. It's not red. But basically, The interesting thing about this, Walter, if you want to get really weird, is that this is prophesized in the prophecies of the Hopi indigenous people of your beautiful America. They speak of a blue star, Kachina, appearing first as a signal, followed by a red star, Kachina, bringing a whole new world. The blue star, then the red star. That's exactly what's been predicted you'd see at the Sphinx on the 20th of March. So maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe the next time you and I talk, though, Walter, the world will be a very different place indeed.
Ross Coulthart, News Nation.
Walter
Great reporting.
Makes your evening strange. Red Apple Audio Network.
That's not Morse code. That is a secret sound on shortwave frequencies heard around the world that started with the Iranian war. When the Iranians were attacked, this signal started to be heard around the world on shortwave. No one's sure what it is, but it is not Morse code. Now, you and I know about number stations and CONET signals, where countries on shortwave get in touch with their spies around the world. Why they need that now with the internet, we don't know, but they continue. You can find number stations on shortwave right now. This is a number station in Farsi. This is a Farsi number station. Good evening. I'm Walter Sterling, Red Apple Audio Networks, another side of midnight. My phone number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Listen, this is Farsi. You and I know nothing about Farsi, even though there was some holiday on Friday that we also don't know anything about. Listen. A lot of people, for the amount of time I spend listening to things like that, a lot of people would say,
who do you work for?
Nurse.
Who?
Nurse.
I don't even know what the hell that is. Get yourself a real job.
What?
Who do you work for?
What?
Nurse.
Who?
Nurse.
I don't even know what the hell that is. Get yourself a real job.
800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. The most powerful conspiracies that you and I have to deal with are the ones that are closest to home. And it's fascinating to deal with the pyramids, Göbekli Tepe, underwater bases, and we explore all of those things on another side of midnight. But there are conspiracies close to home. The computer that's hiding in our car that tracks far more than we ever knew. Far more than they will tell you until you find yourself in court with your insurance company. And they reveal all this data. Well, it says here your daughter was sitting on the front seat before the accident. What are you talking about? My daughter wasn't even in the car. Well, according to the computer, she was. What computer? Your car, bought in the last 5 years, has a spectacular array of data available about you that you don't even know about. That's a conspiracy. Your water meter listens to your house. Oh, that's an urban myth. Nope, it's true. It listens to your house. Your water meter. The harmless appliance, the one you don't even think about. But I was a victim that our president was a victim of being unbanked. A few years ago, about 4, I am at a gas station in a rural community. And I'd like to point out, just so we get to know each other, I'm Walter Sterling, and I do not know how to pronounce rural. I can't do it. And I can't pronounce drawer. I can't pronounce drawer and rural. I can pronounce Houston, but I can't pronounce, and I can pronounce, what are my other favorites? Kosciuszko. I can pronounce that. The number's 800-848-9222. I'm pumping gas. I put the card in. It pumps only like a gallon from John Catsimatidis refinery. It only pumped a gallon. And I put it in again, it only pumped a gallon. And then I called the bank, which was Chase. And they say, yeah, your card isn't working. Why? You'll have to talk to your banker. It's Saturday. No banker is working on a Saturday. They barely work on a Wednesday, but they definitely don't work on a Saturday. Monday morning, I call my banker, and my banker says, it's been closed. Okay, why? And they send me to the back rooms. They send me to the back rooms, like on TikTok. I go to the back rooms, and they start explaining to me things like, well, we've closed your account. I said, why? We can close it for any reason. What's the reason? We can close it for any reason. Yes, and I can close it for any reason too. Yes, that's why we can close it for any reason. This goes back and forth for hours. That's bad enough. They closed it without giving me a reason. It gets better. My daughter, away in college, calls me and says, Dad, I just got paid and I can't deposit the money because my account's been closed. Well, her account was tied to mine because it was open before she was 18. So it's still tied to mine, even though she's, Lord knows, an adult. Oh, my God. And she says that it won't work. And I call my banker, you've closed my kids' accounts? Well, they're tied to yours. Why? There was money in the account. I was pleasant at the bank, as pleasant as I can be at a bank. And this is Chase. And then the other daughter calls, the serious daughter, the older daughter, the daughter that is on a Friday afternoon away at college at Syracuse University. She calls me up. She says, Dad, I can't get out any money. My card won't work. My two daughters, college-age daughters, and good luck with that, their cards don't work. Mine don't work. My wife's card don't work. Oh, my God. Why? We can close it for any reason. Okay. About 2 weeks later, PNC also closes my account. Why? Well, we can close it for any reason we want. I know. Fortunately, with that one, they didn't close the daughter's accounts or the wife's account, but they singled me out. They unbanked me. Never got an answer about PNC. Chase tells me that the reason they unbanked me is, according to their resources, I'm dead. Chase says I'm dead. They said, well, clearly I'm not. I'm looking at my banker. I said, well, clearly I'm not dead. Why don't you just open it again? Because I'm not dead. The reason was that I was dead. I can't do that. You're the banker. You're the official person, Mr. Banker. Why can't you reopen my account? I'm not dead. You have to call. You won't believe this. You won't believe this. You have to call our estate division. Your what? For estates. You mean for people who are dead? I, the dead person, have to call your estate division? Because I'm not dead, I have to call them because I am now in the estate division. Then I start getting mail, U.S. mail, addressed to the estate of Walter Sterling. What? The estate of Walter Sterling. The dead guys get mail. I'm the dead guy. You can't reopen the account. Why? You have to talk to the estate division. I talked to the estate division for a half hour, maybe an hour. I went to 6 different people. Finally, at the last person, I said, I have gone through 6 different people at Chase Bank, and 6 different people have transferred me to someone else, and all I'm trying to do is establish that I'm alive. And I've established it with one of your employees at the bank, a vice president at your bank, and we all agree I'm alive. What do we have to do? What exactly do I have to do to prove that I'm alive? And how did you imagine that I'm dead? And here's the best part, as if that wasn't enough. There were 2 accounts on it, and suddenly there was a third account. I knew about the 2, but then there was a third account with $14,000 in it that I had no knowledge of and no awareness of. But there was that third account sitting there with $14,000. Now, that's a good day for me. That's a really nice vacation for the whole family. I'd like to have that. That led to more adventures. That's coming up. You and I will talk about that in just moments. Have you had unbanking problems? I want to hear about unbanking problems. Trouble at the banks. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I don't believe in the official spokespeople. I have no interest in them. I have no interest in press releases. I have no interest in any news that is scheduled. But I love being in a cop bar. I love hanging out with New York City retired police detectives. And that's where I met Vic Ferrari. And every week on Another Side of Midnight, Vic Ferrari is going to share with us a real cop story that he would tell at a real cop bar. Here's Vic.
Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari. Detective Vic Ferrari.
Confessions of a retired NYPD detective, starring Vic Ferrari on Another Side of Midnight.
Hey, Walter. On tonight's episode of Confessions of a Retired Detective, I'd like to tell a story about when I was a young cop working up in the Bronx. One morning in the early 90s, I was driving to Sargent in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, and we see this large crowd gathering. So we pull up just to see what's going on, and we see this 90-pound crackhead female with a long butcher knife, and she's chasing this guy, another crackhead, between cars, running around. I mean, it looked like something out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And it wasn't that she was just trying to scare him with that knife. She was really trying to hit him with it, and she was putting her weight into it. So my sergeant and I got out of the car, and the guy that's being chased by the knife saw us and decided to take safe haven behind us. So we're standing there, and we're trying to get her to drop the knife. And the male crackhead runs behind my sergeant and starts crawling up his back like, help, help, help. She's trying to kill me. She's crazy. She's crazy. So I'm ordering her to drop the knife. She picks the knife up above her head. My sergeant's got this guy on his back. And just as she raises the knife to stab my sergeant, I'm just about to pull the trigger. And another cop from my precinct who had seen what was happening had stopped the car and just leveled her with a tackle. It looked like a 280-pound defensive tackle taking down a quarterback. She goes down. The knife pops out. I throw a set of handcuffs on her, and the other cop picks her up and puts her in the back seat of the patrol car. In the meantime, my sergeant's cursing at the victim that he could have gotten him killed, and that guy doesn't want to press charges because he loves his crackhead girlfriend. As we're trying to sort this whole thing out, the female manages to climb out the back window, rear cuffed, falls out of the window on her head, jumps back up, and starts running down the street handcuffed behind her back. I took off after her and quickly grabbed her by the handcuffs and dragged her back to the police car. In the meantime, the victim still doesn't want to press charges. We threw everybody into the patrol cars, and we got down to the station house to sort things out. When we get into the station house, the victim still doesn't want to press charges, but luckily my sergeant ran the victim's name and he had a warrant, so we locked him up. And then what wound up happening is we charged the female with attempted assault and menacing and criminal possession of a weapon, which was the butcher knife. Later on, after the woman calmed down, I calmly explained to her how close she was to getting shot. She told me, "Why would you shoot me?" I says, "Because you had a knife raised above your head. You almost stabbed my sergeant." She goes, "I wasn't trying to stab you, sergeant. I was trying to stab my boyfriend." You can't make any sense with a crackhead, but we sent her down to Bronx Central Booking, and the rest is history. I'm retired NYPD detective turned author Vic Ferrari for Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including the giant affiliate WABC?
What?
Ancient astronaut theorists can't stop laughing.
What?
Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including giant affiliate WABC?
What?
Ancient astronaut theorists say they can't stop laughing.
How cruel is that? Really? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. One of the challenges of being a third shifter, a great shifter, working all night, just you and me, there's no one else around. The best thing about being up at this time is we're alone. The lady who fills out forms, you got to fill this out by Tuesday. She isn't up now. She's asleep. What those people, and you know who they are, what they don't understand about you and me is that we like working this shift. That's why we work this shift, and we're introverts. We're introverts. Many years, they thought we were shy or rude or, we just didn't like people. No. You and I are introverts. We get energy from solitude. Day people, extroverts, and everybody in the sales department, they're extrovert. And the more they're around other people, the more energy they have. The more you and I are around other people, the more depleted we are.
You're fine for exactly 2 hours and 20 minutes at social events. Then suddenly you're wanting to commit crimes. This isn't random. Introverts have measurably different acetylcholine metabolism that depletes after precisely 2.3 hours of social stimulation, creating genuine neurological exhaustion. Extroverts run on dopamine from external stimulation. Introverts run on acetylcholine from internal processing. Social interaction burns through your acetylcholine stores at 3 times the rate of solitary activity. After 2.3 hours, you're literally running on empty neurotransmitters. The exhaustion is as real as running out of gas. Plan every social event around this window. Arrive 20 minutes late. Leave after 2 hours. Your brain stays functional. Push to hour 3, and you'll need 6 hours of recovery. Push to hour 4, and you're destroyed for 2 days. The ratio is exponential, not linear. But here's a recharge hack. 10 minutes alone in a bathroom, completely quiet, resets your timer by 45 minutes. Not checking your phone, that's stimulation. Complete sensory deprivation. Your acetylcholine partially regenerates with zero input. Your 2 to 3 hour limit isn't rudeness. It's neurobiology. Leave before you hit empty.
Rod in Ohio at 800-848-9222. You and I are introverts. People used to think that we were rude. No, we just need to be alone in a physical way, which is astonishing. But there's finally science for how the reason that you and I are misfits. Hello, Rod. Where are you in Ohio?
Hi, yes. I'm in Xenia, Ohio.
Where the hell's that?
That's like in the midwestern part of Ohio, towards between Cincinnati and Dayton.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Now, you weren't near Medina, which is where that meteor actually landed. What's weird and conspiratorial is every video that came out, every animation of the meteor that hit Ohio showed it landing in Lake Erie. It didn't land in Lake Erie. It landed in Medina.
Oh, yeah. I heard all about that. Now everybody's out looking for that. And see, I had found 2 meteorites.
Where?
This way.
Where?
Right. It was like in the middle of a cornfield. I'd ride an e-bike, and I found it I happened to stop and was kind of looking in the area, and it was just before a cornfield. And I'm looking at it, and I pick it up and I take it home, and then I had another one, and it wasn't too far from that either on the bike trail.
Did you take a piece home?
Yeah, I took 2 pieces home, and I've checked with a museum that just recently opened, and they told me to take it to another museum and I was going to take it there, and they said they don't purchase them, but I'm trying to find who would actually purchase them.
Rod, I don't think anybody will purchase them unless there's something truly unique about it. You might want to take it to a lab to find out what's in it, which could help you determine if it has value besides yours. But I certainly wouldn't give it to anybody. I wouldn't hand it off to a museum. Let me emphasize this. Rod, that is that piece of meteorite, that is in fact yours. Hang on to it. You got grandkids. If you don't, you might one day. They'll love it.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, because, that's what I was thinking, too. I thought maybe I should just hang on to it. And
hang on to it. But take it to a lab. There are labs, the same labs that determine the quality of a diamond, those labs will determine what's in that meteorite. And thank you very much for calling, Rod. Thanks for calling from Ohio, which is pronounced Ohio. Thank you for the call at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. It's 12 minutes past the hour. 12 minutes past the hour. I was sharing with you this horrible, horrible story that Chase decided I was dead. And because they decided I was dead, they decided that they needed to close my card. Now, at the time, I got in touch with Sherrod Brown, Senator Sherrod Brown. And the reason I got in touch with him is that he was on the Senate Banking Committee. He was one of the senators who controls banks, and one of the senators whose job it is to be outraged and to control how things are unbanked, how people are unbanked. That was his job. And I got in touch with Sherrod Brown because, one, he has a strange first name. I don't know why nobody makes fun of him for that first name. What the hell is that? Do you know anybody else? Was anybody in your middle school named Sherrod? No. Do you know how to pronounce it, one R or two? I happen to, but you'd probably get it wrong. Elizabeth Warren is also on that committee. I knew she was way too big to actually talk to a constituent. That wasn't going to help. Oh, my God. But Sherrod Brown's office never got back to me. I called the D.C. office. I called the Ohio office. And I told them who I was. That doesn't matter. But as press maybe get a little up the chain? No. It gets worse. PNC unbanked me. I went to my local branch. I said to the branch manager, I have been unbanked. I don't understand it. My account's been closed. Now, oddly, they closed my account, but not my kids, not my wife's, even though they were linked, but they didn't close theirs. And now I'm talking to the branch manager. She says, well, you're great. You're a great customer. I have no idea why they would close your account. You have money in the account. You manage it well, and we all like you. I have no idea. And she called the back office and another one. And the branch manager could not get an answer as to how I was unbanked. And what was the answer? We have the right to close any account. Yeah, I know. Why did you close it? What was your reason? We can close it for any reason. Yeah, what was the reason? Charlie in Brooklyn, welcome to Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Hi.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Charlie. So are you. You're doing a great job, too, Charlie. What do you do for a living, since you know what I do for a living?
I'm retired.
Oh, my God. You're kidding me. You're kidding me. You mean, Charlie, listen to me. You mean that a retired male listens to talk radio? You've got to be kidding.
I feed about 10 feral cats, and the best time to do it is at night because feral cats are afraid of people. So it's quiet, and, sometimes the neighbors don't want me feeding the cats for other reasons, and I just stay up at night feeding the cats, and, it's a lot easier for me.
Listen, the reason your neighbors don't want you feeding the feral cats is wrong. They should thank you for feeding those cats, because those cats keep away the rats and the mice.
Yeah, whenever I have the opportunity, I tell them that. But
well, send them to me. Send them to me. Walter Sterling at the Red Apple Audio Networks on WABC, reaching all of Brooklyn because Bruce Morrow was born there. I will share this with any one of your clown neighbors. And my friend, anybody who feeds cats is my friend. You have a great heart, Charlie. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, and the reason I'm calling is because I let a landline phone I just lost track of the finances. They canceled my account. I hope to get it back.
You won't
when I get around to it. But why is it that? Oh, okay. That's why is it that they would prefer everyone have cell phones?
Good question. I will tell you exactly why, and I only know why because my dad worked at Bell Labs for 17 years, and I know too much about it. The reason why is that it's copper wire, and copper wire at some point deteriorates, doesn't carry that signal. That's number one. So they have a capital expense about every 25 years to replace the copper wire. It oxidizes. The second reason is copper wire can only do so much. It can take your voice, send it to me. They figured out how to diplex it so multiple voices can go through the same copper wire. But you know what can't go through the copper wire? Pictures, FaceTime, the internet. Those need to go through fiber optics. And what does that mean? It means that the phone company can charge you and does charge you for each of those services. They add on service after service after service. And if you'll notice, none of those services come free. But gee, it might be nice to see the pictures. It might be nice to see the dirty pictures. It might be nice to see video. Well, that won't happen on copper wires. That can only happen on fiber optics, because fiber optics can send the signals fast enough to deliver video. That's why they make much, much, much more money with each foot of fiber optics than they do copper wire, and copper wire has to be replaced. As these copper wires deteriorate and oxidize, they are not going to be replaced. That's why it's being sunset. That's why they want you on the cell phone, Charlie.
Okay, if I happen for any reason to reinstate my landline phone, I will definitely give you a call. And I had tried to, by the way, if I could I just bring up the topic? I tried to call Lionel about a particular topic and I couldn't get through. It was about is there a higher power? And I studied. I read a book. About. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. Okay. For me, it's like the closest thing to proof that there's life after death. That's the research on near-death experiences. Are you familiar with that?
Charlie, I am, and I'm going to do a whole show on that later this month, and I appreciate the call. Thank you very much for calling. Anybody who doubts whether or not there's a higher power, I give you two challenges. Watch a baby being born. Just be there with the mom and be your best self and watch the baby being born. And secondly, if that's not an easy opportunity, this will sound corny, but it works. You pick up a flower this spring, any flower, and relax and exhale and get a cup of tea. And for 2 minutes of your life, stare at the petals on that flower. And let me know if you could create that even close. That miracle alone tells me that there's a higher power. As does Stanley in Brooklyn. Oh, Stanley, stand by, 800-848-9222. Walter M. Sterling, Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Walter Sterling makes your evening strange. Red Apple Audio Network.
Stanley in Brooklyn at 800-848-9222. Welcome to Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Hi.
Oh, my pleasure, sir.
Sir.
Here's a story, short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
When I was young,
You are young. Stanley, you are young. Can you walk? Can you walk?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, you're young. Congratulations. You are my youngest listener right now.
Okay. Can I tell you what I'm calling about?
I hope so.
All right. Here's the deal. When I was young, as I said before, I was about 16, 17, and what happened is this guy kept taunting me every day. This guy was a nut job, taunting me. He put his hands on me, so I defended myself, and I beat that living hell out of him. Really bad.
Good for you.
And he didn't die or nothing, but they arrested me and charged me with a misdemeanor, and I went to court, and the judge gave me a stern warning. He said, I understand your circumstances, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Now, I have had a very common name, okay? And that's when I was charged at that point in my life. I kept getting visits from police trying to arrest me for warrants. And I said, what's your problem? You know, banging on the door at 5:30 in the morning. And I said, what's going on? And he says, are you so-and-so, so-and-so? I says, yeah. And he's looking at a picture. He's looking at me. He's looking at the picture, looking at me. He says, but you're not him. I said, want to see my ID? Okay, fine. This happened 3 or 4 times in a couple of months.
Jesus. This was in Brooklyn, or where was this?
Yeah, in Brooklyn. So anyway, I was entering college at the time, and I was joking around with somebody, and somebody overheard me, a teacher, professor, and he says, you know what you do? You want to get out of that rut? Change your name. Go to court, go to state court, and change your name.
Wow.
And I said, well, what do I change it to? And he says, go to the school library, get a medical dictionary of the worst possible afflictions that anybody could have. The last name is like 20 letters long. Nobody could ever spell it. So I did that. I actually did that. And when I had to get my ID changed, they looked at me and they said, yeah, but there's too many letters. It's not going to fit. I said, well, that's too bad. Do the best you can. And I never had any problems after that. No problems at all. And sometimes when I go to, like, if I open a bank account or something, they look at me and they don't believe me. They say, where'd you get a name like that from? It doesn't even make sense. It sounds like something from the Greeks or the Romans. And I showed them my birth certificate, which I had changed. So you get rid of your problems when you change your name. I'm serious. I just went on.
And you know who knows that, Stanley? You know who knows you get rid of your problems when you change your name? Every married woman. Thank you very much for calling me at 800-848-9222. Ellen, welcome to the Red Apple Audio Networks. Hi.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Well, I'm excited to speak to you, as any man would be.
Well, thank you. Same here. Question, you never mentioned what happened to your money. Did you ever get your own money out of your bank?
Excellent question. There was a third line on my account, the account that was closed, and it had $14,000 in it. And I'm like, what is that? And I said to the banker, I said, listen, here's this $14,000. I'd like to cash this in right now, basically before they figured it out. And I never got an answer to that. And as for the money, that's a good question. The account was closed. I never could get it reopened. My kids, because now they were over 18, they went back to Chase and opened accounts for themselves. My wife went back to Chase, opened an account for herself. They would not open an account for me to this day. And they mailed me a check. And I said, I don't want you to mail me a check. I want the cash now. Oh, we can't do that. Yes, you can. That's my money. Well, Not really, because in all kinds of BS, just total BS. Ultimately, they mailed me a check. But Ellen, this was a horrendous experience, and to this day, Chase will not open an account for me because they think I'm dead, and PNC won't open an account for me because they're crooks.
Terrible. You know, I had the same experience with Chase about 5 years ago. I went to do something. I forgot what it was because I thought it was not important. It was $20. And they said, your account is on hold. I said, on hold for what? I have enough money in there. So I went into the bank, and they said because I owed $100 on taxes, but I had paid it. But the government never told them I paid it. How do you like that?
I don't like it at all because these are crooks. These are gazillion-dollar businesses. Chase, PNC, Verizon, all of these are crooks. And, Ellen, I'm very grateful that you listen to this show. It's nice to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and good luck with your program. You're doing a wonderful job.
Then I am. If you think I am, I am. Thanks so much. Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight. Walter M. Sterling on great radio stations like WGN in Chicago. WGN in Chicago. Can you believe that? If you take WABC, WGN, KDKA, KMOX, and if we had no other stations, those signals are so huge. They're not some cute little FM stations, that go, more music and less talk. Why are you talking if it's more music and less talk? More music and less talk. And now, on this wonderful FM station with at work, while you're at work, your favorites while you're at work, and now 10 in a row. That's not broadcasting. Do you understand? That's not broadcasting. That's being a coward. Say something. Do something. For gosh sake, surprise us. Give us a surprise. If you don't, you're squandering a signal. And there's all the romance in the world about freeform radio and progressive radio, and that was the Doors, and now Purple Haze, and they leave their doors open, and there's funny stuff coming out of this progressive rock. Guess what? This spoken word radio, hosted by clowns like me, is progressive rock radio. It is freeform radio. At no time has anybody come to me and said, well, Walter, here's your playlist of subjects that we want you to do tonight, like at a radio station. Do you know at those music stations, if one of those disc jockeys, listen to me, if one of those disc jockeys wants to change the order of the computer printout of the songs, just changing the order, they have to ask the program director permission. Can you believe that? And then they pre-record their voice 3 days ago, 10 days ago, and now they're sitting there at Ruby Tuesdays soaking it up. That's not broadcasting. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is broadcasting. It's 31 past the hour, and Michael Harrison is one of the great broadcasters of our time, one of the great innovators of our time, and actually an expert in metaphysics. Yes, an expert. And I said to him, you're an expert? He's like a radio psychic. Here's Michael Harrison. Michael Harrison, a radio mystic, on Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. A radio mystic. I need to start there, Michael Harrison. Please share with us your definition of a radio mystic.
I hadn't really thought of myself as a radio mystic, but somebody I had a conversation with just recently said, you are a radio mystic. Because, people in the radio business know me as everything from being somebody on the air to being a programmer to a former station owner, a trade magazine publisher. I've been in radio for years, but a radio mystic, yeah, that's not a bad definition for me because I do find radio to be quite mystical. Just think about what you and I are doing right now. Isn't it mystical? It goes through the air. It goes in through people's ears. They hear voices. It involves frequencies. It involves vibrations. It involves electromagnetic fields, all kinds of interesting things. So I was thinking about you and I talking tonight, and I wanted to come up with something really, as we used to say, far out, man, that involves radio mysticism. When I was a disc jockey many, many, many years ago, we tried an experiment. We found out that if you yell at the top of your lungs at what we would call a stylus, a needle, when we used to play records, you know, you put the needle on the record. If you yell at the needle, you go, oh, or hello, is really loud, it can go over the air because the needle will vibrate from your voice and it acts like a little mini microphone. And there have been cases when the moon and the stars and the atmosphere and the humidity and everything was just right, where people got in trouble for yelling something in the studio and having the needle vibrate and having it go over the air as if it were a microphone. So first of all, I want to ask you, have you ever done that? Have you ever experienced that trick?
I'm disturbed that you have even thought of that trick, and certainly I, Walter Sterling, would never have done anything like that. Oh, my gosh, no.
Well, you are known to be quite the square when it comes to exciting things like mysticism, but that's another story. You are into alien astronauts. I've heard that about you.
I am sure about that.
Okay. Will you at least say it's possible so that people don't think I made that up?
Oh, no. I totally believe it's possible. It made perfect sense. I am surprised I haven't heard of it before. And the people I hang out with, I'm surprised they don't spend half their day testing it.
But here's the point. If you yell at a needle and it picks up the sound, what's to say, and if a record, an old vinyl record, which are now becoming popular again, I'm told, not so sure whether that's true, that the grooves, the grooves that are embedded in the vinyl when touched by the right electronic medium can recreate Led Zeppelin or recreate sound or the spoken word. So obviously, by putting grooves in something solid and then playing it on something that is designed to be able to pick up the grooves and turn them back into sound, anything could be recording. You know the expression, the walls have ears?
Yes.
Well, the walls really, literally, scientifically do have ears. That theoretically, everything that exists, rocks, buildings, trees, sidewalks, pencils, anything you can think of, is picking up and recording on some very minute level vibrations that contain sound. That means that if there's a 1,000,000-year or 2,000,000-year-old rock laying around, it has recorded all the sound that has been around it. We just don't know how to play it back. So there's a little bit of radio mysticism that's based in pure science. And it's very hard for me to prove it to you, but just the fact that I'm talking to you right now, and you and I are talking, and people are listening to this, and it's coming from some kind of a vibration, a vibration-filled piece of paper or some type of a vibrating object that makes for a speaker, either in an earbud or a small radio or whatever it is, that's pretty mystical unto itself. And are you ready for another one? You want one more?
Yes.
I have a question. The question is the brain like a radio receiver picking up signals from the universe, or is it an instrument generating its own content within the darkness of a skull?
Yes, I believe both. First of all, the overwhelming answer is we're just beginning to understand what the brain says, and they have yet to define consciousness. They're not sure yet what consciousness is. Secondly, our brain is filled with salt water, and there's no better conductor of electricity and waves and electromagnetic waves than a container of salt water. Therefore, that's why I believe we can receive it. We're built to receive it. We have ears on either side of it. As for transmitting, any psychic, any quasi-scientist will tell you, yes, we can transmit, but you put a brain scan on a person's head in a hospital, in a doctor's office, and it will measure impulses, it will measure light, it'll measure different vibrations and different, a cornucopia of responses will come out of that brain. The ability
Where's it coming from? Where is it coming from? And I don't expect you to necessarily answer that. I think you and I last week had that conversation about consciousness being the hard problem in physics.
Yeah, they don't know. They know it's doing stuff. They don't know much.
It's very interesting to think about, though. We take these things for granted. Have you ever had the experience, Walter, you're on the radio and you're talking? Of course, you don't have to be on the radio to do this, but usually when we're on the radio, we're more conscious of the importance of our words. It's like printing them or publishing them or writing them. You're putting them out into the airwaves and people are listening. So you're conscious that you're thinking and you're going off on a monologue. And you're talking and you're talking. Have you ever said to yourself while you're doing it, where are my thoughts coming from that I'm translating into spoken word? Where am I coming up with this? How am I doing this? Where's the lapse? Between when it starts and comes out.
There's only one time when I do that, when I have that thought. And there's a point in doing a talk show where you're looking at your notes, you're looking at your reference material, and at some point you hit a stride, an unconsciousness. It's the word you just said. It's a level of consciousness where you're a little bit out of your brain, out of your consciousness, out of your body, and it's just coming. And anybody who's done public speaking knows that the best speeches are the ones that when they get off the stage, they cannot remember a thing they said.
Right.
Those are the good ones. When I get off the air, if I'm exhilarated, if I don't remember a thing I said, that was a good show. If I'm on the air and I keep looking at the clock and the clock doesn't change, I'm very much in consciousness, and that's not such a great show. I know the phenomena. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. I wonder. I always wonder if that source is going to be there so that it starts to flow. The exact opposite of that is reading a script. And reading a script is a pretty amazing process when you think about it as well. But extemporaneous speaking, back to the discussion we had, is the brain generating that content? We call that stuff content, folks. Or is the brain pulling it in from someplace else? Now, you and I are having this conversation right now, and countless individuals, many of them are listening by themselves, so we have a very large audience of one times, some exponential number. But who's communicating here? Are you and I communicating, or are we just avatars and two entities somewhere out there in the universe, in the quantum field, are communicating through us? Add to it the technology of radio, the magic of frequencies through the air, and then the whole process of that audience of 1 times 100,000, 200,000, a million, interpreting what we're saying and hearing it in their brains, which are operating perhaps as a radio. It's enough to make you dizzy.
Michael Harrison, radio mystic. And Michael's made some outstanding points, which is when you and I talk and we listen to each other and communicate with each other, there are different levels. There's active listening. We can pay a lot of attention to what we're hearing, or there's passive listening that we only pay attention to when the speaker hits keywords in our brain. You go, whoa, what did he say? What did he say? Yes. And that's consciousness, which they are just beginning to understand.
Right. They, not us. Well, you and I know it.
No, not us.
Well, we're the real deal. We're conscious. How do we know they are? How do we know they're conscious too? It's very, very troubling.
It is. Michael, do you have other information for us? Anything else you'd like to explore tonight?
No, I think we've explored enough. Is there anything you want to know, or shall I drift back into the ether?
I think the ether is a good place for you. And I'll leave you with this trivia fact. You mentioned about things listening. A couple years ago on the side of your house, they put a new water meter, a little gray box, and it replaced the big mechanical thing. They put it in a little gray box, a little electronic box. Oh, good. We're getting an electronic water meter. That water meter, once a day, listens to your house for about 10 seconds to decide whether anybody's home and to see if the water usage levels are extraordinary in any way, to make sure no one's stealing your water.
Is that true?
Absolutely true.
Is that a concoction of somebody's imagination?
No, not only is it true, but it was confirmed by one of the inventors of it.
That's crazy. That's another level of, you know what I think the biggest problems we face if we don't blow ourselves up going forward into the second quarter of the 21st century is dirty water, but the bigger one is the lack of privacy. The way we are losing our privacy is frightening. I mean, it's downright scary.
I understand what you're saying. You're intellectually right. I agree. But I've given up on the privacy argument long ago. All right, Michael Harrison, publisher of Talkers Magazine, a radio mystic. You can read all about the talk radio industry at talkers.com. It's for free. I know you're a geek. You want to find out more about it. Michael Harrison, thank you very much for being on the Red Apple Audio Networks.
Thank you, Walter.
Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Look at this. An actual broadcaster is here. Jake Novak, legendary news person. I'm not allowed to say newsman anyway. It's misogynist. Can't do that. Jake Novak with the 5 at 5. Coming up in just seconds, the 5 top news stories at 5 o'clock on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Jake, what would you say is the top 5 of the top 5 at 5?
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. We have an incredible deadline ticking down right now throughout the world. I'm not an overly competitive person, Walter, but I just can't believe as I drive in here on these weekend mornings how much the other radio stations, including the supposed all news station here in New York, don't cover the actual stories that are happening right now. President Trump issued an ultimatum at 8 p.m. last night. He's giving Iran 48 hours to open the Strait of Hormuz, or he says the United States will, quote, totally obliterate their power grid. I don't know about you. You can love President Trump. You can hate him. You can be interested in this war. You can be in favor of this war. You can be against it. But how is that not your top story? I mean, they literally are leading with the death of the former FBI director, Robert Mueller, which happened more than 24 hours ago and was reported almost 24 hours ago. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I like drama in news, especially when it's real, when it's not, falsely generated. This is a real deal. So we're at 39 hours. By my math, we're about 39 hours away from this deadline. And that's my big story. Sure.
Newsman Jake Novak, the reason that they are not on those stories, the reason they're not on those stories is they are pre-recorded. You are listening to pre-recorded news that was pre-recorded up to maybe 24 hours ago, maybe 48 hours ago. I love it when people get excited about things that are on 60 Minutes. Well, 60 Minutes was prepped on Tuesday. Yeah. It is recorded on Thursday, edited on Friday. And by the time we see it on Sunday, it's 72 hours old. But the radio stations, there's no news on any FM station except the all news station's FM signal. So it's an AM FM station airing the same product, a waste of a signal. But the other thing is much of their overnights is pre-recorded, if not all of it.
Well, they pre-recorded it after, before 8 p.m. I mean, honestly, that's really journalistic malpractice.
Well, what's today? What is today?
So, I mean, today's Sunday. So
okay, well, there's your answer.
Yeah,
they
that's
pre-recorded.
incredible.
It was Saturday. To do it live, it would have meant that they would have had to have an employee.
Yeah, well, not only that, but that's what they chose to record. I mean, the fumbling and the mistakes, if that's taped, there's really no excuse. I mean, I always did live news, Walter, in my 32 years of being an executive producer in TV, except for a couple of years where I did a tape show. It was a weekend business program with Jack Cafferty, and we taped it on Fridays. And when I say I was miserable during the post-production of that show, I am not exaggerating. I enjoyed doing it, but the post-production was just like pulling teeth because little things that would have just been part of the flow of a live program, we would have to fix. And even this was between the year 2000 and 2010. This wasn't the dark ages. If we had one banner on the video that was coming in a little late, I'm not talking about a misspelling that we want to fix, of course. But if there was one banner that came in too late or stayed on too long, we would have to fix it. And it would take an hour to fix something that no viewer cared about. Drove me nuts. And I also, of course, went to bed every Friday night, terrified that a massive breaking story would happen overnight, and my show, all that work would be completely wasted. Either they would pull it from the air or they would still run it. And I didn't know what would be worse. Would it be better if they pulled the darn thing and just covered the breaking news and my work would be completely not seen? Or would it be worse if they put it on and people tuning in would say, why are they doing this? There's a major story. So honestly, the taped and news are two words that should not go together.
Correct. No, 99% of the listeners and the viewers do not know who Robert Mueller is and do not care.
Right.
Anything that was vaguely relevant about him ended many years ago when he sat there and he said, President Trump really didn't do anything. We can't find anything that he did. And then he failed to say, but we should indict Hillary Clinton for what she did, for putting out the phony dossier, the quote dossier, the piece of fiction. We should arrest her now. I don't know why he didn't say that.
Yeah.
That was, but no one cares who he is. He didn't achieve anything. Think about it. He caused trouble. And as head of the FBI, he didn't achieve anything. He's a not achieving man. And therefore, I don't see how that's news at all, except it's easy. And there's the crime. That's easy news. That's a press release. That's an obituary. That's easy news. Anybody can do that. That's off the AP. All right, you and I are talking to Jake Novak, who's going to do the top 5 stories at 5 a.m. coming up in just seconds. Walter M. Sterling chatting with Jake Novak on the Red Apple Audio Network's Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. It's Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Walter Sterling.
Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including the giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists can't stop laughing. Is it possible that Walter Sterling is actually on the Red Apple Audio Network, including giant affiliate WABC? Ancient astronaut theorists say they can't stop laughing.
Jake Novak, a real news person, with the top 5 stories at 5 a.m. Jake, what are the other top-of-mind stories that are causing you concern or curiosity?
Well, of course, the other big story nationwide is we still have this partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, which includes the TSA not being funded. And, Walter, I have to tell you, it's not even 5 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I am already seeing very long wait times at the major New York area airports. Every morning for the last couple of weeks, I've been reporting those numbers to folks, hopefully helping them out if they're on their way to the airport. Or if you're not, maybe you should start getting going because these wait times are very long. There was an attempt yesterday by Chuck Schumer to do an end run around his own shutdown. Instead of ending the shutdown that he's responsible for,
yes.
He tried to do something. But also a huge other story is that...
Wait.
Go ahead.
Wait, what did Chuck try to do? What did he do?
What Schumer tried to do is get in a funding just for the TSA. He wants to continue to not fund the Department of Homeland Security while we're at war, while we've had terrorist attacks here in the United States since the Iran war started, including that attack on the synagogue in Michigan and that attack at Old Dominion University. He's okay with that not being funded, the anti-terrorism forces, but he wanted to just give the TSA money. And that didn't make it. And meanwhile, President Trump has issued yet another ultimatum. He has 2 ultimatums that are in the news that are really the top stories this morning. He says that if they don't get this taken care of, he's going to put ICE agents and have them work the TSA checkpoints.
Yes.
These are huge stories that you did not hear on all. And it's not. And Walter, by the way, it's not. You're right. Listen, it's not just the laziness and the taped programs. They don't want to project President Trump. Even if you hate these things, even if you hate these ultimatums, they don't want to project President Trump in any kind of a position of strength, showing him in a strong position, issuing the ultimatum to Iran, issuing the ultimatum to the Democrats in Congress, telling them that ICE workers are going to come in instead. They don't want to do that. So literally the two biggest stories in America and probably the world are not being reported this morning on the so-called all news stations.
It's profound, isn't it? I thought at some point that this Trump derangement syndrome would dissipate to some degree so that there could be like somebody drowning inside a car and there's like an inch of oxygen on the top. I thought an inch of oxygen might appear as our country goes to war, is at war. Our men in the military, our women in the military are fighting for us in the Middle East, not a friendly place to begin with. And they should only hear good news from their homeland, as they have with most other wars. I can't even believe this insanity. And the ultimate part of the insanity, Jake, is that I don't know what they think the outcome is going to be. They're not going to get him out of office. They're not going to get him lose his majority in Congress. He's there. He has a majority in Congress. There's no amount of whining is going to change that. It's just bizarre.
Well, they don't even know how to do it right. I mean, it's one thing to have Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, the only thing they're doing with Trump derangement syndrome this morning is crying about the fact that President Trump put out a social media post saying he was glad that Robert Mueller was dead, so that everyone can clutch their pearls over the mean thing President Trump said about Robert Mueller. I love how these people say you should speak well, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead when it's someone that they liked. If it's someone they don't like, they don't follow that rule. And by the way, you can't follow that rule in news, especially if it's a public figure. If it's some ordinary schmo, of course, we're not even going to talk about him in the first place, but we're certainly not going to criticize them, criticize their careers. But these are public officials. Robert Mueller was a public, paid, pensioned official in this country for decades and decades and decades. His record should be scrutinized. And by the way, I'm going to have some of his records scrutinized on this program at between 5 and 6 a.m. that you also will not hear anywhere else. But it's completely documented. It was reported at the time that these controversies began. I don't understand why we can't have real reporting about this person. The biggest story about Robert Mueller passing away is not the fact that President Trump basically celebrated. That's not the biggest story. You want to mention that? That's fine. But they're not even doing it right, Walter, because the big story with President Trump today are two massive ultimatums that he's issued. And even if you do have Trump's derangement syndrome, those are bigger stories. That's what you would want to trigger your Trump deranged audience with. And they don't even do that right. These people, I hate when a bad job is done, even if I don't like the product you're trying to make. They're not even doing it right, Walter. And it's frustrating to me as someone who's been in the business for more than 30 years.
I like the fact that our president has now recognized it's hopeless and is treating the press as though it's hopeless. Now, when he says to a reporter, who are you? Where do you work? And they answer, I've never even heard of something like that. Why don't you get a real job? No president in history has ever spoken to any member of the press like that on a regular, predictable basis. You're a terrible reporter. You're a horrible human being. I'm not going to take any more questions from you. This is fantastic because they did it to themselves. They endlessly showed no respect for forget about the man, the office. They showed no respect for the office or the guests who were in the office. And they just kept asking wacky questions. And finally, he's given up. He said, fine, you want to play like this? I will beat you at your game because I'm the president and I'm funnier than hell. And you don't have a prayer against me. You have set it up. They did it to themselves.
They did, and the proof is in the pudding. I reported extensively yesterday on the weekend edition, the NewsHour weekend edition, about how CBS, massive layoffs there, shutting down their entire radio division, also laying off a ton of on-air correspondents. This is not just because of the partisan divide in America. They'd make plenty of money if they were doing a better job as a so-called left-wing outlet. They're just not doing it well. It's not watchable even if you do hate Trump. That, to me, is the icing on their terrible spoiled cake.
Jake Novak, the top 5 at 5 in just seconds on the Red Apple Audio Networks.